Hello, everyone. This is Corinne Halsey with Coexisting Canine Dog Training, and I want to talk to you about natural herbal remedies and things you have around your house that can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars at the vet. I really am strongly a believer of this because I rarely have to bring my dogs to the vet because they are so on to amazing herbs and remedies. And by the way, all these things I'm about to mention, I'm going to cover every kind of medical issue that you can use natural herbs for, are also the same for people. So I take a lot of the things that I give my dogs for prevention and for successful healing. So let's start with antiviral and antibacterial and antimicrobial. Now, reishi mushrooms and mushrooms in general are my all-time favorites, but reishi mushroom is a natural antiviral and antibacterial. So anytime I go in the woods with my dogs, when it's tick filled, I put them on reishi mushroom right off the bat for at least 10 days. It stops them from getting Lyme's disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So this is a beautiful thing. Uh, Basil, believe it or not, also has the same qualities as does cat's claw. Now, you're going to be hearing a lot of these herbs showing up for a lot of things because they're so multi-talented herbs. So cat's claw is a good one also. Now, an insecticide is fennel, believe it or not. And you can even just sprinkle some fennel powder on your dog when they're out, and ticks don't like fennel at all, nor do fleas for that matter. Or if there's a common area where your dog is in, you can sprinkle fennel or natural fennel plant. That will help with that also. So now as for antioxidants, and I'm going to get into the reason for why you want antioxidants, obviously to prevent things like cancer, moringa and astaxanthin, and that's a mouthful. I use these myself. And let me make an example to you of the benefits of astaxanthin. You can give this to dogs on a much lower level, and I'm sure you can research any of these things I'm about to mention, and you'll see that it's true. I had been a vegan for many, many years, and yet every time I went to the doctor, my cholesterol levels were still high. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm not even eating cholesterol. Then I read a 700-page book on molecular biology and the causes of cancer, and found out that eggs are actually an awesome source of good cholesterol. And the reason that they turn to bad cholesterol is because they oxidize. Now, there are good eggs and bad eggs. Obviously, free-range chickens tend to not have the cholesterol oxidize and become bad cholesterol because these chickens are not stressed. They're eating natural things off the ground as opposed to the caged eggs, caged animal eggs. The chickens are now stressed. They're only eating one kind of grain. They're not getting variety. Now, astaxanthin is this microalgae that is loaded with antioxidants. It's like a super antioxidant. And so I started eating 2 eggs for breakfast every morning and taking astaxanthin. And a year later, I went back to my visit, and my cholesterol for the first time in years is actually normal. So I do give these to my dogs. I give them moringa. Moringa has 95 different types of antioxidants as well. So moringa is awesome. This is going to come up on the list a lot as well. So next, we're going to talk about the liver. Milk thistle is something I give to my dogs on a daily basis. Milk thistle keeps the liver from getting goo, and it keeps it clean. And then another surprising herb that you're going to hear me mention for just about every ailment is bilberry. Now, bilberry also helps the liver and the kidneys and other things from getting bad, getting toxic and unhealthy. So it's a good preventative, but also helps it if they start to get any condition, keeps the liver strong. Okay, now I know a lot of you out there have dogs that are anxious and stressed, and things I use for this is number one, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is a great herb for relieving stress, as is lion's mane mushroom and chaga mushroom. Now, I give lion's mane again for many things to my dogs, but ashwagandha I use in it as an ad need basis. And to all you women out there that are going through the change, if you're feeling anxious, ashwagandha will save your marriage. Ashwagandha calms down that raging brain. Stuff's amazing, and it'll help put your dogs in a better place if you have, especially rescues that come to you that are anxious. And it's a natural plant, and it has all these things, by the way, I'm about to mention, have no side effects, and they're completely safe. Now, next on my list is bone health and arthritis. Now, there are many people out there, I know your dogs that are struggling to walk now or can't get in the car anymore and you have to use stairs. And I've been there with my dogs, but not anymore. So, some of the most common ones, the one I love the most actually is dandelion. Now, I make dandelion tea. I let it steep for 20 minutes and then I pour a little bit into my dog food's bowls. It's best to do it for 2 weeks on and then 1 week off and 2 weeks on and 1 week off. But I cannot believe the results. My lab can now get in the car. My dog Sebastian had arthritis in his paw. He's not limping anymore. They run on the beach again. The stuff's amazing. Now, I also use moringa. Here we go, moringa, turmeric, yucca root. Now, yucca root you can get in the stores now. It's that big brown looking thing that you see in the stores. Like, what is that big brown root? That's yucca. I actually take yucca in my shakes. What I do is you peel it like a potato and then you chop it into pieces and boil it for like 45 minutes and then stick it in the blender with some of the water that it was in. And it makes like almost like a mashed potato-y kind of thing. And I put that in my dog food as well. I use green lip mussel and I use turmeric with pepper for my dogs as well. Lion's mane, bilberry, and shiitake mushroom are also awesome for arthritis. Now, as for bone, eggshells. Now, what I do, if you have a spice grinder or a coffee grinder, is I grind the shells. So when I give my dogs eggs, I don't waste a thing. I take the shells and put them in my grinder into a powder, and then I give that to my dogs. It has an awesome, awesome amount of calcium in it that's highly absorbable. So eggshells are really good for bone health overall. Now, in the fall and the spring, I guess it's important to mention allergies. Now, my cocker had this allergy every fall. Her whole stomach was raw, and they're just giving me all these medications, and nothing was really working. And it came back every year. So I discovered that stinging nettle is not only something to use for the allergies, but teaches your body to fight the allergies. Now, I tried this out on my son first because he started getting all these really bad allergies. The poor kid was so congested all the time, and they tested him. He was allergic to like 6 different grasses. He was on all these over-the-counter prescriptions and other prescriptions, and it wasn't really helping. So every morning before he went to work, I was squirting a little stinging nettle into his tea. I made him a cup. Let me make you some tea. And I'm squirting the stinging nettle in there. So after about 2 months, I noticed he wasn't sniffling anymore. I stopped the stinging nettle. And to this day, he still doesn't get allergies anymore. It's done. His body fights it. And this is a beautiful thing. So if your dog's paws are red or they're having some kind of flare up, stinging nettle, you do a shot in the food once a day for a couple of months and you won't need it again. You're not going to be dependent on it. Okay, so now I want to talk about neurological. If your dog's getting a little dementia or you want to keep the brain healthy, once again, I'm going to mention bilberry and lion's mane and maitake. Now, lion's mane is my favorite. I have dog classes that are kind of big sometimes, and I have a chart, with their names, the dog's name and the owner's name, and I have to go back to the list in that first class to remember everything. Well, I started taking lion's mane, and I went to a class that it was new, and I was absolutely shocked that I didn't have to look at the list more than once. I actually just knew everybody's everybody's dog, everybody's name. It was amazing. Now, believe it or not, and if you can research it yourself, they are now using lion's mane to treat dementia and Alzheimer's. This stuff is amazing for keeping the brain and from having neuro damage and repairing neuro damage. So that's amazing stuff. And of course, bilberry, and maitake mushroom is also good for keeping the brain healthy. As for eyes, once again, bilberry. And yes, when you listen to my whole list of things, you're going to go, I can use bilberry for everything. Um, bilberry is great for preventing um, the degeneration of your eyes. So here's an example: is me. I have been taking bilberry for many, many years now. I think I was about 53 or so when my reading, I couldn't read the really tiny stuff. So I got tested and I was still at 90%. I'm now 57 and I don't need reading glasses. I'm still at the 10%, but I don't need, I can read a book, I can read a magazine. Bilberry's amazing. And so then all of a sudden, I went to the vet with my dog, Sebastian, and he had a little cloud in his eyes. And she says this is a natural thing of aging. It's just going to get worse over time, but it's not cataracts or anything like that. It's just macular degeneration. I started giving him bilberry. And after about a month, I was like, where's the clouds? It cleared it up. This stuff's amazing. Bilberry is amazing in every possible way. So that's what you want to do for eye health overall, human and dog. Anyway, epilepsy, thyme. Believe it or not, the oil or the tincture helps reduce, and reishi mushroom. I know you heard that one again. Mushrooms are on my all-time favorite because mushrooms have so many medicinal qualities. They're on every list as well. Reishi mushroom actually prevents, and they're using this now, the number of seizures. It reduces it greatly, as does thyme. So a little bit of thyme tincture and some reishi in your coffee if you have epilepsy. But if your dog does, you can put it right in their food. And I do put thyme in my dog food for other reasons, and reishi as well. So that's really good to help greatly reduce the amount of seizures. Now, let's talk about the intestinal. In general, let's talk about diarrhea. When my dogs change recipes, and yes, I make my own dog food, I'm going to get into that. When my dogs have diarrhea or are a little soft, ginger and coriander is the first thing I put in the food. Ginger, and you can use the ginger powder. Obviously, when I choose these things, I choose to go organic. I want to be as healthy as possible with my dogs. Coriander is a natural antidiarrheal, as is dill. Ginger settles the intestinal tract. And I used to have to take my cocker to the vet, and they would give her Flagyl and a little steroid shot. And 3 to 4 days later, she was back to normal. Now I was giving her ginger and coriander, and by the night, she was fine. This stuff's amazing. Now, of course, bilberry, shiitake, fennel is also really good for digestion. Maitake and cat's claw is another one you're going to hear a lot about. Cat's claw is amazing in many ways as well. Now, talking about mushrooms, let's get into cancer. This could be a lengthy part of it, but cancer, and everybody says it's genetic and it's this and that. When you look at the cell, right around the nucleus, you have this other layer where the mitochondria are. And there are these little like string-like things. What causes cancer is the damage of the mitochondria. What causes the damage? Obviously, outer toxins and things like that. When the mitochondria get damaged, now our body naturally fights bad cells. P53, they fight the bad cells and they stop them from moving on to creating more cancer cells. But when the mitochondria get damaged, that becomes a problem because that's malfunctions cells from stopping and making it past that stop zone, those bad cells. So turkey tail. Now, I give my dogs a half a teaspoon of turkey tail every day. I take it every day in my coffee. Turkey tail is amazing and actually is being used to reduce and stop cancer cells from growing and prevent. So that's a beautiful thing. Shiitake, lion's mane, maitake mushroom, cat's claw. I could go on. Moringa, bilberry. And then, of course, things like astaxanthin, because the antioxidant helps, that oxidation can create cancer. And of course, as you age, your body doesn't produce as much CoQ10, which is important for keeping the cells healthy. So I do give my older dogs now the CoQ10 um, with their food as well. So those are also good remedies for cancer. And now, since I'm on cancer right now, diet, grains and beef and sugars are the major no-nos for cancer. Cancer feeds on that kind of thing. They feed on the carbs and the beef and the sugars. So I do make my own dog food. And if you think in a natural environment, dogs would eat a rabbit, a rat, a mouse, a squirrel, whatever. And they're getting the meat and the organs raw and the vegetables that are already kind of digested. So with my dog diet, I take my vegetables and I put them on high on the blender or on the food processor so they're a mash, and gradually wean them onto raw because I was cooking the food, and gradually wean them onto raw. And they're much healthier now with that. And it's easy. You can make a big batch and then put it in 3-day containers. And then you have batches that you can freeze and batches you keep out, 3 days at a time, because that's the most you can keep in your fridge is 3 days. And that's really a good help for your dogs. The commercial food is packed and dried. And why does your dog have dry skin? Because of the food. The food is dried at very high temperatures, which actually makes it oxidize into cancer. And it's high in grains. If you got grains second, third, or fourth on the list, that's way too many. There shouldn't be any, in my opinion. No grains. Grains are not beneficial for your dogs. Actually, beans aren't too great either. And, they shouldn't have too many beans. It causes gas and other problems. Which when we were talking about intestinal, a lot of those things do help with the gas too, like fennel. But you really are, and there's all these specialty foods in the vet office that say fix this and fix that, when you can actually fix this from home with all these remedies I'm talking about right now, because you're just giving them grains that are making it worse. Yeah, these foods are not beneficial. I'm sorry. I know most people are intimidated by making your own food, but like I said, you can just throw everything in a pot. And in the beginning, I did cook it. So what I did was I took the meat and I put that in the oven for 45 minutes on a 325 for about 40 minutes. And in another pot, I put all my vegetables. I put organ meat, raw. Those are raw. And of course, the mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, maitake mushroom, whatever I could get a hold of. And then added the meat. And then you drain the liquid from it and divide it into 3-day packages. It literally, if you can make a week or two supply, and then you only have to make it every 2 weeks. Bonus. It's not that hard. Now, when you go raw, you don't have to cook it. You're literally just slowly going on to raw, not beef, by the way. Now everybody's like, oh, salmonella and this. Well, if you're eating that chicken in the store and nobody in the store is getting salmonella, why would your dog? Right? Anyway, let's go on weight. Bilberry. Is your dog overweight? Or if you feel you're overweight and you can't lose weight, bilberry actually helps reduce fat absorption. It decreases the fat absorption and helps you lose weight, helps your dog lose weight. So again, bilberry is on the list. Again, it's an amazing thing. Now, I now want to talk about the heart. We want to keep our dogs' hearts strong. Now, I know that Cavaliers are definitely one of the breeds I have. One, they don't usually have a good history with heart. So dandelion, again, is really good for the heart. Milk thistle, as I had mentioned before, with the liver, because milk thistle is basically it detoxes. So it helps the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, all those kind of things. So that's what milk thistle is good for. Turkey tail. bilberry, moringa. Cinnamon is awesome for keeping the heart healthy because it reduces cholesterol. And cat's claw, again, I love cat's claw. Cat's claw is great. Um, as for oral health, now you have a dog with gum disease. Guess what I'm going to say? Bilberry. Bilberry and dill are absolutely amazing. And what I do is I just put the bilberry right in my dog food. What I do is I sprinkle the dill, and I use the whole dill right on top of the food. Same with the fennel. Fennel is also good for gum disease and inflammation of the mouth. Most of these mushrooms, by the way, like reishi and lion's mane, reduce inflammation. So for oral health, your dog has swollen gums, and I noticed my Cavalier's gums, he had gum disease, were starting to reduce, and it didn't look swollen. Now I can brush his teeth again because I couldn't. I couldn't brush his teeth because his gums were so swollen it hurt to brush his teeth. Okay, so next on the list is diabetes. Lion's mane. Lion's mane actually helps manage and the insulin level intake, as does bilberry, chaga, cinnamon, shiitake, maitake, and once again, cat's claw. So these are all things, basically bilberry and all the mushrooms, and you're good. You know what I'm saying? For most things, helps with diabetes type 2 in your dog and in humans. And again, if you have doubts about any things I mentioned, you can look it up yourself. It's all there. Now, autoimmune. This is an interesting one, right? So this, again, we go into the mushrooms like lion's mane, turkey tail, chaga mushroom, bilberry, once again, and cat's claw, fennel. These all help with the inflammation that is caused from autoimmune. So especially like someone with rheumatoid, lion's mane, you would think boosts. All these things are immune boosters, by the way, to help fight and build up the immune system. But in autoimmune, you say, well, that's going to boost it up and make it worse. But these help actually reduce the inflammation from autoimmune problems. So now I hope you have pen and paper and you're taking notes for some of these things. Now, the kidneys. Dandelion, once again, bilberry, reishi mushroom, and astragalus. Now, astragalus is awesome for a lot of things as well. But what I like about astragalus and reishi and bilberry is that they actually they detox the system. Astragalus especially. Astragalus treats the whole system, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, your spleen, your pancreas, gets rid of all the toxins that go in, the pesticides and the junk that you eat every day, the air you breathe in. You don't know, especially if you're in the city. So these are all the things that are good for the kidneys and keep them healthy. So keep that in mind. So that is all the herbs I'm going to talk about today. Again, I like a lot of the heavy hitters are the bilberry and the mushrooms and, moringa. But I can't believe, how much times we have to go to the vet because your dog has an allergic reaction and sore paws and dry skin. And the skin is dry because of the food. Now, let's say, and I'm going to give you this. You don't want to make food. You don't want to bother you. It's too much work. You don't have time. Supplement or add a little bit more into the food. What I suggest to all my clients that are like you that say, I don't have the time or the energy to make food. You can add to your current food. First of all, find a brand that's grain-free first off the bat. Right off the bat, we want to go grain-free. I'm sure you can do that. There's kibble made for grain-free. You can't get away from the high temperature dryness, but we're going to compensate with that. Eggs. I love eggs, but I also love sardines and mackerel in water. Now, those fish are really healthy for dogs in many ways. You've got the omega-3s. They're rich in B12. They're awesome. And they also don't suffer from the mercury levels that the large fish have. So you've got your mackerel and your sardines and your eggs and some raw organs. Now you can get a bucket of chicken livers in the store for under $3. And you can just, and what I like to do is chop them up, but of course they're gooey and messy. I put them in the freezer for about an hour. So they're sort of firm, and then boom, 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 you can chop it right up. It's awesome. So that's a resolve for those of you who don't want to make food. But if you want to make food, you can feel free to contact me anytime via email, coexistingcanine@yahoo.com, with any questions about the process, and I'd be happy to email you back with ideas. There's a really good book out written by a veterinarian, by the way, called Yin and Yang Nutrition for Dogs. I highly recommend it. She's got quick and easy recipes that really cover all the basics with the dog's breed and their tendencies for certain diseases. So Yin and Yang Nutrition for Dogs is a good book if you want to get started on making your own food. So I hope I've helped all of you. I hope to help all of your dogs and save you money at the vet, because these solutions really work and work for a lifetime and without side effects. So thank you so much. And it was great educating all of you.